morning, for the conclusion of Genesis chapter 25. We kind of did it yesterday at the waterfall, but the sound was not very usable, so we are redoing it here this morning. Cap, it's raining a bit, so yeah, excuse for that. Okay, so Genesis chapter 25. What is ultimately the chapter about? Abram dying, firstly Abram marrying again, having more sons. Then Abram gave provision, made provision for them. He didn't just send them away without nothing, but he did then send them away. And they went eastward. Now yes, there's no really westward going if you're already basically at the sea kind of idea, at the Mediterranean. So most of the land in that part would be in the eastwardly direction. But by now we know as well the idea of east is away from God. So Isaac was the one to take the line further. Isaac was the one to get the blessing, the one who will have the children, who will ultimately give birth to Jacob, and then go on further. Judah will come from him, David from the line of Judah, and then ultimately Jesus, right? So we know that is a line. So all these others, they are players but not important players. I use the example of, it's like a river flowing, like the Okavango, the river flowing in the Okavango Delta. It flows in there and it disappears, right? So their stories start, but their stories end because they are not the main players. They are not part of the line that will take the story through to Jesus. That is the most important part, right? Isaac, his line is like the Amazon or the Nile. It starts and it flows all the way till it reaches the ocean. The sea, Mediterranean Sea, or the Atlantic Ocean, whichever river you're speaking of. Okay, that is why those lines keep on, that story keep on growing. Then Abram died, and his sons buried him. And there's a reminder of how they buried him in the cave at Machpelah, which ultimately Abram bought after the death of Sarah. As we've seen as well, that played or showed that this is the first piece of land he legally owned in the country. So a small fulfillment, a small start to the final fulfillment. Like a river starts small, the story, one son, small little piece of land, just for a burial site, basically, and some area around it, understandably, but the focus on the burial site. Okay, but then the story grows. It grows into where the people now hearing this, being told by Moses there in the desert, there are so many of them. There are millions of them. So in other words, they know that how God took one man and mowed all of them, and there was this one little piece of land. A reminder again, God is going to give them the whole piece of land, so the river will grow big. Right? Now ultimately this story flows into the New Testament, and the understanding of Jesus and ultimately, and now Paul is going to show what the true meaning always of this is that we are all children of Abram. Yes, Abram is now dead. Abram is kind of out of the picture, but we are all children of Abram. This river, it getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, maybe like the Nile Delta, right? And then encompassing a whole wide area, whole wide fertile area. And now it includes all those who believe in Abram. The other thing is as well that we see on how in the end of this chapter, Esau very easily sold his birthright to Jacob for a lentil soup. Okay, now maybe in the beginning he thought it's a bit more than just lentil soup, but that was what it is ultimately. He sold it so easily. And the chapter ends showing how he didn't really care about his birthright. It wasn't important to him. In the New Testament, Paul in Romans writes about the fact of Esau I've hated, right? We will still look at the idea if it is because of Esau's action and God saw his actions and therefore God hated him, or if God hated him because God hated him. Okay, we will still see later on. Okay, so it flows into this wide story ultimately of the children of the covenant and the children on the outside. Those children of God in Christ and those outside of Christ. Right? This is ultimately where the story flows to, because Jesus is an ultimate Abram, right? Jesus is the one who never sinned, unlike Abram. Jesus is the one who died ultimately on a hill, unlike where Abram did not have to bring his son or kill his son ultimately there on the mountain. So this is where the story is flowing, and we will take it further as we continue.